Yes, you are not seeing shit. Let me in. Yowie wowie.
That's what she said.
What the hell's going on here?
I don't know, Terry. What the fuck
Jason
is going
Funk.
on?
How you doing today?
And I'm Fiend Funk.
Whoop, whoop.
Funk the Fiend.
And Shaggy Two Dub's hanging on James's spot tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyways, welcome to episode 120, the special Halloween special of the Shadow Kvlt.
Yeah, scary. Scary.
Helen, suck my dick.
Bruce.
Yes, Helen, suck my dick the way I like it. But anyway, so yeah, Halloween special to conclude October. And, well, we're going out with a bang on this one. We are talking
Pew-pew!
One of the most cursed pay-per-views in WCW history, but not nearly as cursed as a show that we're going to talk about in 2 months. But we are talking WCW Halloween Havoc 1997. Since 25th anniversary of when this show happened, and we got a lot to talk about with this show. Oh, yeah. And I mean a lot. So to kick things off, why don't we talk about where WCW was at this point? To kind of put it short and simple, they're on top of the fucking world at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just beating out Raw in the middle of the 83-week streak. NWO going strong. Sting is white hot at this point. And a lot of other things going on.
Cruiserweight division's going strong. Mid-card is going strong. Tag division's going good. Production's up. Pay-per-view buys. Every metric there is out there, they are absolutely dominating.
Indeed. Well, with all that said, let's get to the stats. So, Halloween Havoc 97 from the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Paradise, Nevada, whatever you want to say. Vegas is better anyways. An attendance of 12,457 sellout, 10,138 paid, live gate of $297,508, and the pay-per-view buys 305,000, which up to this point, this was the biggest buy rate in WCW history up to this point, and it would get shattered 2 months later, and we'll talk about that show when we get to it. Now, compared to Halloween Havoc, wow, voice crack. Halloween Havoc 96, every metric was way higher than 96. And then in terms of 97 stats, attendance was the third highest, Starrcade the highest, Livegate third highest, Starrcade the highest, pay-per-view buys second highest, Starrcade the highest. But with all those out of the way, let's talk about the show itself. So we got 9 matches on this night, and we kick things off with Yuji Nagata with Sonny Ono versus the Ultimo Dragon.
Yes.
So this is largely the continuation of the Dragon-Sonny feud after they were together for a good chunk of 97 before Dragon turned babyface and Sonny would get whoever he could to take out Ultimo Dragon once and for all. And we get the match here. Pretty good opener between these two.
Solid match between the two. It's crazy to see a young Yuji Nagata in this match, too. Just to see him so fresh as a daisy back then, because he was not pro for very long, I think, at this point. And Mike Tenay is the MVP of commentary on this entire show because of all the facts he's thrown out there. Bobby Heenan says at one point, "Mike, what do you not know? What don't you know?" And just firing off fact after fact after fact after fact, just everything about that really helped the commentary back then, because this was a 4-man team. Bobby, Dusty, Tony, and Mike Tenay. It's like, Jesus, talk about, people want to complain about, Raw having the 4-man team or whatever for a while there. And guess what? They weren't the innovators of that shit.
Yeah. But then we get to the finish of the match. Armbar from Nagata for the win. pretty simple, straight to the point.
And that was the story of the match too. They do the spot where he hurts the arm of Ultimo, so we can capitalize on it later on. Ultimo Dragon pulling out the Asai Moonsault, as Mike Tenay says, his namesake, Yoshihiro Asai. That is Ultimo Dragon's name, and he was the one that created that move. So they put that over too, and they both get to demonstrate a lot of their techniques. I always loved the inverse figure 4, the Nagata lock. I used it myself a couple of times. I never did it as good, but I always thought that was an innovative move there. And really solid match. Different to see a heel winning the opening match too for a pay-per-view. A little bit different, a little bit off the format as it were back then.
Yep. Anything else you want to add, James?
Nope.
All right, well, in the end, with an armbar from Nagata, Yuji Nagata defeated Ultimo Dragon in 9 minutes, 42 seconds. Now we get to one of the matches where it gets a little bit more in-depth because of one particular moment. We have Gato versus Chris Jericho, which they did bring up their history in Japan being tag team partners.
In war.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Wrestling and romance.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we get the match here. Another solid match between these two. And, well... Then Jericho almost fucking died.
Yep.
Trying to do the top rope Hurricane Rana, and I don't know what the fuck went wrong there, but just not full rotation or whatever. They both slipped. And Jericho about broke his fucking neck and died.
Mm-hmm.
Like, holy shit. Like... how he was able to even get up without any pain afterwards is beyond me.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is back too when Chris was in tremendous shape and really had that thick neck going. And, you know, when you train and you wrestle in Japan, the neck is something you train constantly. You know, the neck exercises they do in the dojos in Japan are ridiculous, and they will break the average human being. So that's why they always train their necks so strong, to make sure they have all that padding there to protect them, because they know what they're getting into over there. And thankfully, Chris had that here. But yeah, when they both stood up, he stood up too soon. By the time Jericho got up there, they were like this. And they really have to be more like this. Because Jericho had done this spot in ECW. He was doing
times.
Yeah. Specifically, it was like doing a 4-way TV title match. I remember him doing it. I want to say he did it to one of the pit bulls, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so Jericho needs to be leaning in a little bit more, and in this case he was leaning backwards. That's why basically he's falling back as he jumps up, which is why he spikes himself on his neck there. So yeah, dangerous to say the least. But like you said, glad he was able to recover and finish the match. And
then to the finish. The good old Lion Tamer for the win, as Chris Jericho defeated Gato by submission in 7 minutes, 18 seconds.
And by the way, folks, Gato, that's the guy in charge of New Japan. Don't forget that.
Yep. Who would have thought?
Better part of a decade now.
Mm-hmm. But now on to, well, probably one of the greatest matches in the history of the company, and that is saying something, considering this company's had a lot of classics. Up next, we get the first of 2 championship matches on the night for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship, title versus mask. Champion Eddie Guerrero versus challenger Rey Mysterio Jr. Of course, we all know about the rivalry between these two that dates back to their early days together and then all the way through into the WWE. And then
great build-up before the pay-per-view, like the month-long, with telling the history of Lucha Libre and the mask and all the traditions. Some great build-up there. And the match.
Yeah, I mean, what else can be said about this match that hasn't been said already, other than it's the greatest cruiserweight match of all time, I would say.
And top 5 match in the entire company's history. And yeah, in my opinion. And it's the pacing of this match too that keeps it going. Because Eddie pretty much is dominant throughout the match. Ray gets a little bit at the beginning, but then it's Eddie. Hope spot, Eddie. And he's just able to keep the pace of that match, keep it going. Thank you.
Yes,
And yes. Yep, it happens. I'll take me. Sorry, I didn't inform the wife this was going on, so she has to get a straw so I can drink. But not like I could do this. But we'll lose the people watching if I do that. So yeah, the pace of the match is what keeps it going there. Eddie keeps control most of the time, to where you just get these incredible bursts of energy from Ray, the infamous armbar backflipping DDT spot on. 10 out of 5 stars on that one. How they're able to pull that off and everything else. And just Eddie's attitude at this point. This is like the most Eddie Guerrero he's been in the States at this point. Because this is where you're getting like heel Eddie full on like they got in AAA 3 years earlier. So now you're getting, because most of the time, ECW, he was mostly babyface Eddie, mostly. And he had already been the babyface in WCW, kind of like me babyface type deal. Here is full on heel. Eddie sucks. I hate everybody. Just his attitude. Who was somebody said, I think Bailey said that if she ever turned heel, before she did turn heel, this is the kind of heel she always wanted to be. She wanted to be Eddie Guerrero, wet hair, just sauntering down the ring a little bit like she does now, with total disdain for everyone around. And that's what Eddie exemplifies here as the match. What's the outfit Ray's wearing? Is it Phantom?
I think so.
I think it's the Phantom outfit or something like that. It's not Daredevil, right? But Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms. But yeah, so this match, solid. Everything leading up to
the finish. Well, I also want to add on, what I think separates this from most cruiserweight matches is, I've said it a time or two before, I've always been a bigger fan of the TNA X division than the WCW cruiserweights, just because they did more, in my opinion, in the X division, whereas cruiserweights never have done that much for me, because I just always assume cruiserweight matches are just Hurricane Ranas and high flying the whole way through. What separates this from any cruiserweight match you can think of? The storytelling, the pacing, just like you said, Scott. But then we get to the finish. Well, actually, I forgot to mention that throughout the match, because of the mask stipulation, Eddie just kept trying to rip at his fucking costume.
And speaking of the mask stipulation, there is some behind-the-scenes stuff with this match, because Bischoff wanted to unmask Ray. He wanted to unmask all the masked luchadors, and Ray was originally supposed to lose this match. But Eddie went to bat and said, no, not gonna happen. And it was basically a compromise. It's like, okay, Ray wins here, but the next time I say for him to lose the mask, he's losing the mask. And we see a year and a half later, he lost the mask.
Yep. But then we get to the finish, where it looks like Eddie's about to go for a razor's edge from Brett's rope, and then Ray counters it into a Hurricane Rana for the 1, 2, 3, as Rey Mysterio Jr. defeats Eddie Guerrero in 13 minutes 51 seconds to become the new Cruiserweight Champion. So already 3 matches in, we're off to a really good start with this show, and then, well, we start going down big time. Because up next...
go ahead and introduce the match, but go ahead.
Yeah. But up next, match number 4, we have Alex Wright with Deborah versus Steve Mongo McMichael. I'm just going to say right now, why did this match have to happen on a pay-per-view?
Originally it was supposed to be Mongo versus Jarrett. Jarrett left WCW to go back to the WWF, so they needed to put in somebody on the fly.
And this is not really a bad match. It's got a funky finish. It definitely has a funky finish. But the match itself is not that bad. When you look at it strictly from just the context of it, it's fine. It gets the job done. You just had 3 amazing matches, like you said. Cards have to go like this. There's ebbs and flows with every card. So this is one of those down times. It's not a bad match. James just explained why this match is happening. The finish is kerflunky, yes. It's more just there to get Goldberg over and try to continue the kind of sort of angle he had with Mongo taking the ring and all that stuff. But regardless, it's there. It's not a horrible match. It's not anything anybody's going to be talking about.
It's not even the worst match on the show.
No, we'll
not
get to
even
that.
Close. We'll get to that much later.
Much later.
But in the end, Alex Wright defeats Steve McMichael in 6 minutes 31 seconds. Following that, we get a man versus woman match, Disco Inferno versus Jacqueline. And I've said it before here, and I'll say it again. I've never been a fan of man-on-woman matches. Unless the woman has physical presence, like Chyna, like a Rhea Ripley, like a Raquel Gonzalez, like a Nia Jax. Someone who's big enough that's believable enough to face a man, I can accept. But someone the size of Jacqueline? No, even though she's arguably the toughest woman in the history of the business, but still.
There's some backstory. There's some backstory with this one, because this match was supposed to happen earlier in '97. Disco refused the match to lose and all that, so he was fired for a brief period of time. And then WWF was teasing the Honky Tonk Man's new protege, and originally was supposed to be Disco, but WCW brought Disco back under the promise of, you're going to put Jacqueline over. We're going to give you the TV title, but you're going to put over Jacqueline.
And again, this match is not a bad match. The crowd is into it the entire time. It's Psychology 101. They do a great way of telling the story. The characters of these two on television was always portrayed as Jacqueline is a badass woman that you don't want to mess with. You know, all the time she spent with Sullivan and all that stuff. Disco's a total pussy. So it's like that in and of itself helps define the roles of these two in the match. So when Disco is running from her, you can get behind that. In kayfabe, you can get behind the fact, like, yeah, he would run from a woman like this because he's a pussy and she will beat his ass. And that's what they play off in this match. He goes to the floor a lot and the crowd starts to boo it, which is the reaction you want for the psychology factor, leading up to the finish where the fucking crowd pops. End of story. That makes it a good match, in my opinion.
Like I said, it's just my taste, and
that's just personal opinion is fine. That's all. You don't like the match. I'm just saying that business-wise, they do it right.
I mean, the match itself wasn't bad. It's just I just get uncomfortable watching intergender matches a lot of times. Mm-hmm. It's just how I'm raised, and that's just how it is for me.
I understand. Completely valid.
But in the end, Jacqueline defeated.
Kevin Sullivan said he one time, long time ago, the best intergender match he ever saw. I can't remember who the person was, the man and the woman. Bell rang, guy went up, punched the woman in the face, covered her 1, 2, 3. That was it.
Oh, jeez. But in the end, Jacqueline defeated Disco Inferno after a 2 count from a crossbody and then a roll-up in 9 minutes, 39 seconds. Following that, now the show goes up just a little bit with the second and final championship match of the night for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship.
Don't you mean the Cruiserweight Championship?
Yeah, I was just about to say that. yeah, I was going, because, somehow the U.S. title got misplaced, and, the champion had to walk out with the Cruiserweight title. But anyways, champion Curt Hennig versus challenger Ric Flair, stemming from the end of War Games the month prior at Fall Brawl, when Hennig turned on the Horsemen to join the NWO, which a lot of us have said it over the years. Kayfabe, poetic justice for the Horsemen, and shoot, the death of the Horsemen was Fall Brawl 97. And now people look back on this match and say, this match was bad because it wasn't the classic wrestling match we've seen them to have. With the story, it didn't need to. They were going to beat the shit out of each other, and Flair wanted revenge. He didn't want the fucking belt. This was a fucking fight, and it was a really good brawl.
They're playing it up on the countdown show. It's like, Flair don't give a shit about being U.S. champion. He just wants to kill Kurt.
And as Flair's music comes out, he just comes running in and just like, I don't care.
You got Kurt. Kurt comes out in the fucking robe and does the slow saunter of the reps, building it right there, building the heat. Flair's like, fuck it, let's get right to it. And these guys know each other, they respect each other, they have chemistry. They just go out, we're just gonna fucking fight and just fucking put it over. Let's go. And they do exactly what they need to do.
Yep. Oh boy.
And like you said, Levi, brings the crowd back up after the last 2 matches, like it's supposed to do.
Yeah. And then we get to the finish, and to show you how much the U.S. title meant to Flair, he takes the belt and has Hennig in a Tree of Woe spot, puts the belt in front of his face, and then kicks his face in with it, causing a disqualification. So Curt Hennig defeats Ric Flair by disqualification in 13 minutes 57 seconds to retain the U.S. heavyweight title, and just more brawling between the two after the match. Following that, we get match number 7, a one-on-one match with Larry Zbyszko as special guest referee, Scott Hall with Syxx versus Lex Luger. Oh, how the mighty have fallen for Luger at this point, unfortunately. You know, just a couple months before, was white hot as anybody in the business, got the world title, finally, as a babyface, properly, only to drop to Hogan 5 nights later. But as we said, it was better for him to have won it and lost it quick than to have not won it at all, given the build-up with him for the past year. But it's a shame that after dropping the belt to Hogan, his momentum pretty much was gone. And he never got that momentum back. And, well, here we are with he and Scott Hall, and this match was a cluster. A fucking cluster. Especially more so for the finish than anything else. Because what in the fuck? I mean, I get what they were trying to do, because this was... And also, if we're going to be real, this was more about Zbyszko and Hall than Luger Hall. Or, to go even further, this was more about Zbyszko Bischoff than anything else. So it's like...
They were building up for Starrcade with this one. It could have been anybody against Hall, and it wouldn't have mattered.
That's why. That's why you can say this is kind of clusterfuck with the match. I don't think so. I think the match, for what it is and what the business of it is supposed to be, it does what it needs to do. Doesn't have to be a technical 5-star masterpiece. Does not have to be that. These guys beat the shit out of each other. They pop each other back and forth. Larry constantly getting involved. A little distraction, but he's quick to turn back around because he can't play the stupid referee here. He's supposed to be the experienced veteran. Bischoff comes out. Get out of here. Right back to it. Doing what he needs to do. Tell that story. Leading up to the finish. That we're going to get to here. But I think it's a fine match in and of itself for that reason right there, because the business of it was to build to eventually Larry and Eric. And Hall was a long-time advocate for Larry. They went back, for AWA when Scott Hall was working territories like the Central States. He tells the story on a shoot interview with RF Video. He got to work Larry as one of his earlier matches, and he was starting to get pushed up the ladder in Central States. Larry comes in as a champion. They go to this 30-minute Broadway, and Larry was calling it to him in the ring and do all that stuff. And Scott loves putting over the finish. They do the 30-minute time limit thing where the referee's counting, and ref counts 1, 2, bell rings, and then Larry says to Scott, "Now jump up like you won." And Scott does that. Crowd goes ape shit, but he doesn't win the title. But it's like all those little details help to build Scott's confidence and get him going. Larry's one of those guys. So he always was in Larry's corner trying to get him to do something. Because Bischoff wasn't buying Larry. He knew him from the AWA and figured he's old and done. I ain't going to use him anymore. And Scott's like, this guy's a fucking star, man. He can fucking do it still. You got to use him.
There was a point in time where Larry, outside of Sting, was the most popular babyface in WCW. And he was a commentator.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the match itself is one thing. The business it needs to do is a whole different scenario.
Which brings us to the finish, and why I don't like this match, because this finish was so cluttered. Like, what the fuck? So, Syxx kicks Luger, leading to Hall pinning Luger, and then it seems like Hall's won the match, and then Zbyszko asks for a replay, having suspicions of interference, sees what Syxx did, match restarts with Luger having to torture rack on Hall, and you think Luger's gonna win, and then Syxx and Bischoff beat up Luger and Zbyszko, and it's like, really? This is the finish you're gonna do? You couldn't have just had Luger win straight up to get some momentum back? You had to do this? I get, again, building to Zbyszko and Bischoff, but you could have done that after Luger winning. But we got what we got. So Lex Luger, Scott Hall fought to a no contest in 13 minutes, 2 seconds. So, after the little peaks and valleys, we get right back up near to white hotness here with the penultimate match of the night. Match number 8, Las Vegas Sudden Death Match, aka Last Man Standing. Macho Man Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth versus Diamond Dallas Page. The culmination of the long feud between these two that dates back to near the beginning of the year, and one of the best feuds in all of pro wrestling during 1997. And these matches, and this is the third one in their trilogy. They had their first one at Spring Stampede, then the Great American Bash, took a little break, and here we have the third one. And holy shit, again, these three put on another amazing match. I mean, just beating the shit out of each other, telling a good story, especially with Dallas's ribs being taped up, all the spots, and like fucking Dusty on commentary after the spot when DDP hits him with the waitress tray that breaks away. Like, I thought he was about to fucking have a heart attack right there. But then, of course, you get the one spot where Elizabeth finally gets to act like an actual heel properly. Fucking hits the referee with the fucking waitress tray, starts choking out Dallas, and then out comes Kimberly to, can't fight! Get her the fuck out of there.
I never liked that. I never liked them to use Elizabeth in that way. It never made sense. It's like, nobody wanted to boo Liz. Didn't matter who she was with, and that's not what you should have done with her. So that was really stupid.
But the match continues on as normal, and again, just beating the fuck out of each other. And then we get to the finish, where Hogan comes out in a Sting mask, and everybody thinks, oh my god, it's Sting! And hits Dallas in the ribs with the baseball bat.
Why does Sting look taller?
Yeah.
Right? And more tan in the neck.
And bald.
But in the end, Randy Savage defeats Diamond Dallas Page in 18 minutes, 7 seconds. But even in defeat, Dallas was made with this feud, and as you would see in 98, continuing to rise up the ladder, leading up to winning the belt at Spring Stampede 99.
25 years later, DDP still puts over this feud and Randy Savage as the reason he became a superstar.
Yep.
And even the Broken Skull sessions admitting that he, around Thanksgiving, called up Savage to let him know how thankful he was, and didn't hear back for a while until Savage, Dallas, come here. I got your message. And I asked my father if anybody ever called him to thank him before. Nope. I appreciate it. Big hug. Big hug is like intense, but damn.
Mm-hmm.
So, there you go. Good ending to an amazing feud. But now let's get to the shit we all really want to talk about from this night.
Who else wants a drink?
You know, watching this back, I've thought long and hard about this, and I can say freely, my all-time favorite match of all time, for me, is Piper, Hogan, War to settle the score. It's my favorite match. And then...
Which brings us to the main event of Halloween Havoc 1997. Steel cage match, non-title, Hollywood Hogan versus Roddy Piper.
Which, by the way, kayfabe, Piper is the authority figure, and he didn't put the belt on the line?
Nope.
What the fuck? You have the power.
Yep. There was that little detail there, yeah. He wasn't thinking straight that day.
Yeah.
Or like their Starrcade match when he wrote up the contract and he didn't put in for the world title.
Right. But yeah, and of course, over the years, everybody's given the nickname to this match, Age in the Cage, because, oh my god, they were so fucking old. They weren't that old. They were only in their early 40s.
For context, Undertaker and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25 were the same age as Piper and Hogan here.
So compare and contrast.
Yep.
I mean, this is the time when the guys are they. It's a case of they're big stars. They're so over they don't have to do much. But after all this build up to this show and these matches they had beforehand, they couldn't go out and they should not have gone out and done what they did. They should have done a more. I was about to say a little bit more. No, a lot more. And
if they would have done more, it would have been an improvement.
Another problem with this match too, Piper shines way too long at the beginning. Hogan just sells for him way too long. You know, we talked about this earlier. One of the magical things about Ray and Eddie was Ray hardly gets any shine in the beginning of that match. Eddie gets right on him pretty much from the beginning and just sets the pace. That should have what happened here. It wasn't. Like, Piper's beating Hogan up still at like minute 5. It's like, come on, dude, you got to start selling for this guy eventually. And he does a half-ass head bunk into the cage, and then it goes from there.
And then you have both of them leaving the cage, and it's a normal cage match, but there's no finish? Like, what?
That doesn't stop it? What the hell?
And then you get Sting, and then another Sting, and then a few more Stings, and then a bunch of Stings, and it's like, what the hell?
And let's not forget...
They're fighting on top of the cage, and just...
And speaking of the cage itself, WCW, I swear, never got a steel cage proper.
Except War Games.
Yeah, except... Well, even with War Games... too damn small in height.
Sid nearly killed Pillman, but...
Yeah. Yes. And JJ fucked his shoulder up.
Right.
But, like, this cage is one of the ricketiest cages. And this is the same cage that they used for Flair and Vader at Super Brawl 4. So it had been sitting for 3.5 years, and, hey, let's bring it out, because... yeah.
And for those who don't remember what the cage looked like, it was essentially the Thunder cage, but the inverts cut off from the top.
Yeah, Hell in a Cell without a top on it, but kind of.
Yeah, which ironically enough, just a few weeks before this show, you had the Hell in a Cell. And there was no chance in hell Piper and Hogan were going to top that match. No. Not a chance. So basically it was like... And we're just getting a normal cage match, not something innovative like what the company up north did. So yeah,
and
basically
Randy Savage.
Yes.
Oh my god. How did he not break his fucking legs?
Which brings us...
Because he does the diving axe handle off the top and his knees go cluh.
Mm-hmm. Which began the end of Savage's career. Pretty much. Which, that was the finish. Savage goes to the top, hits the axe handle, or missed the axe handle, nearly breaks his legs, and then Piper puts the sleeper on Hogan, and Roddy Piper defeats Hollywood Hogan in 13 minutes, 37 seconds, but almost immediately after the bell rings, we get more brawling with a bunch of fake stings and the quote-unquote fan climbing the cage.
The plant.
Yeah, a plant. And handcuffed Piper to the cage, and that's
with
how
one arm, one length, one arm at the other one. So they couldn't do that right.
Nope.
No.
Fade to black credits.
And that's how it ends.
See you tonight.
What?
See you tomorrow on Nitro.
It was like almost there. There was like potential for one of the best shows of the company at that time, and then off the cliff it goes. I think... when Jim Cornette did one of his infamous rants about being the icon, this is the match he references.
Yep.
Okay. I wasn't sure, but thank you. Yep.
It's only the best cage match since 3 weeks ago from Hell in a Cell.
Right. They were sucking so much oxygen. The first 3 rows are dying of oxygen deprivation, something along those lines.
And Hogan, you might be a household name, but so is garbage, and that gets taken out when it's old.
Roddy Piper was my hero when I was growing up, but that was 30 years ago.
Thank you, fuck you, bye.
Oh, if only he could have ended his rants like that back then.
And Vince Russo! And Kevin Dunn!
I'm sure
and Jim Hurd and Ed Ferrara.
Mark Madden.
But
Tony Khan.
But basically, to put it short and sweet, this match arguably the worst main event in WCW history. It's between this and the Doomsday Cage from Uncensored to Your Pride.
There were some bad ones in 2000. There have been a ton of bad main events in WCW's history, which that could be a top 10 we do in the future. Top 10 worst WCW main events.
But this could probably say the worst main event of a WCW pay-per-view during their dominance. How about that? Does that fit? That fit the criteria?
Well, again, it's between this and the Doomsday Cage.
Well, the Doomsday was before the dominance.
Yeah.
Doomsday was before that. The 83 Wii.
Yep.
I mean, the Leno tag match, maybe.
That was better.
Honestly, I prefer that over this.
98 War Games.
I prefer that over this.
It probably is the worst during that run.
Yeah. It just for what you expected and what you got, and just how badly it ends the pay-per-view, I think it's just like for that time frame, it's one of the worst ones.
And the business that it did. This was the most bought WCW pay-per-view up to this point.
They had a match people wanted to see, and that's what they got.
What we got.
Like I said earlier, Hogan Piper, 1985, January, War to Sell the Score, my favorite match of all time. And it does not.
12 and a half years
later, that's what you get. And both guys are in great shape, too. At least they look it, but did not demonstrate in any way, shape, or form. And so much chicanery and all of overbooking going on with this thing, too. It's like so much they didn't need to do. Probably because, I'm just guessing, not speaking ill of the dead, but Piper sometimes was tough to do business with. And this is probably Hogan and Bischoff trying to appease him in some way to get him to just cooperate. Because Hogan still puts him over, but how they got there.
It was a case of, Piper can go over, but then let's do all this bullshit afterwards.
Right. We want them to forget that part. So, and they did. Yeah. Then they do. So.
And we don't see Piper again till next spring.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, so overall, Halloween Havoc 97, this is the definition of a mixed bag, for sure. Yeah. You have some really good stuff, but you also got some bad stuff on here. So, at best, Halloween Havoc 97 is a run-of-the-mill show, and at worst, it's a mediocre show. Not terrible, but not great.
Not blow away, anything like that. So.
Yeah, because you got more good than you did bad, but the bad stuff really.
But isn't it something that we have a show where you have one of the best matches in WCW history and one of the worst matches in WCW history?
Yeah.
Yep.
So we know favorite and least favorite. What about sleeper and shocker?
That's the tough one. There's a lot of sleepers on this show. I mean, Ghetto and Jericho's solid. Nagata and Ultimo Dragon's good.
Flair Hennig.
Flair and Hennig's good. I wouldn't call DDP and Savage a sleeper.
No, that would have been the close second for.
That would have been the best match on any card if it wasn't for Mysterio Guerrero.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna give sleeper to Nagata Dragon for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that too.
What about shocker?
Shocker is how bad the main event was.
Yes.
I was going to say that.
Yes.
All right, push Job Endeavor.
Oh, fuck, I forgot to do this.
Hogan, Piper, Savage.
Yeah, just do that. I mean, at this point, Piper's going away anyway. So
yeah, so Piper's endeavored.
You can endeavor him. Savage is hurt, so he's going to be doing jobs or whatever. But
so might as well keep pushing Hogan.
So let's do let's do a lower tier one then. So Ghetto, Ultimo Dragon, Steve McMichael.
Probably push Dragon to be like a bigger name in the cruiserweights. Job, Mongo, because that's what he's doing already, and then Endeavor
Ghetto, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, think about it. I was so traumatized by the main event, I forgot to do it. So
wait, here's another one. Push Job Endeavor. Alex Wright, Disco Inferno, Jacqueline.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna push Jacqueline at this time. I'm gonna job Disco and Endeavor Alex Wright.
What he said.
Okay. So now, This Week in Wrestling.
Yeah. I think Levi's frozen, or he's just not moving.
Huh?
What?
On my screen, you're frozen. So, am I frozen on yours?
No.
Okay. All right.
Testes. 1, 2, 3.
5.
Anyway, This Week in Wrestling.
So...
I'll take this off now.
Oh my God!
Would it be cool if I looked totally different under here?
Son of a beat me, son of a beat me, son of a beat me gun.
You thought I was going to say son of a bitch, didn't you?
Hey!
Well, the first thing I want to get right out of the way, Sami Zayn fucking striking gold again. On SmackDown.
Over 12 million hits on what will go down as one of the best breaks, best corpsing of any segment on
Send
SmackDown.
for the man.
Send for the man. You got it. And what we were talking about before we started was the word going around the internet on what Usi actually means, possibly.
Because I saw a tweet that, and I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently, according to the tweet I saw, Usi is Samoan slang for pussy.
Take that for what it's worth.
Which, if it is, then you can understand why they're laughing.
They lost it.
Because now the fans are chanting essentially pussy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Scott was talking about earlier, before we went on camera, about if Vince was in charge, he would have chewed everyone up.
Oh yeah, everyone would have been in so much trouble if Vince was still in that chair. I think.
Mm-hmm.
But now, great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still going to be sad the day that they betray Sammy.
Yeah,
and people are going to grown men are going to cry.
They're going to cry.
Mm-hmm. They got to do the whole fucking stretcher job, ambulance, the whole nine.
Mm-hmm.
Do as much as you fucking can with that one.
Yep.
So what else? The return of Emma. Emma coming
out
back
of nowhere.
Big surprise there. I have a feeling she's going to go to Tennille Dashwood. I think we're going to see a name change. Just because in that promo after the match with Ronda, she said, "I now know what I need to do to get ahead," or whatever that is. I think that's going to. I don't know. I have nothing to base this on, but I would think it's going to be. She's going to. The Emma name. Emma as a name doesn't mean anything anymore.
No.
When she was a goofy, comedy gimmick.
The dancer.
For Dancer, when she was with that was great stuff. And people forget that it was her and Paige that really started to get the ball rolling with the whole women's evolution thing. That's where it started. Not the Bella twins, people. This is where it started, her and Paige. So I think it'd be time for her to go to a name change and say, this is who I really am. This is what I want to do. 5 years? I think it was a 5-year absence from the company and did what she needed to do in other places, but, and did good stuff. But now it's time, I think, for her to kind of make her own name again.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, I just had something else that came up this week in WWE. That was concerning a name, and I just lost it.
I did see that Triple H is wanting to get rid of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view and the Money in the Bank pay-per-view.
Yep, that's in discussion. Yeah,
thank God if that happens.
Bringing the matches back as regular matches to be used in feuds for blow-offs or whatever. Bring the Money in the Bank matches back to WrestleMania, possibly. So,
and since you're doing 2 nights, you can do the men one night and the women the other night.
Got it. Exactly.
There you go.
So, makes sense to do that. What else happened this week? Uncle Howdy made another
Looks
appearance.
like Barry Windham.
Yeah, it does look like Barry Windham.
And I saw Barry was trending. I'm like, what? And I clicked. I'm like, oh, it's side by side. It's like,
yep. Which now you think that like total sense. A lot of rumors that it's Bo Dallas who's going to be portraying that character. So.
Uncle Brother.
Yeah, Uncle Brother. Let's see what else happened there. Oh, NXT had Halloween Havoc last week, and we were live when that was happening. So, Braun kept the title, and solid triple threat match for that main event. Oh my god, it was really solid. I heard a lot about the women's tag title match on NXT too.
I heard about that too.
Yeah, Walter was putting over huge. Just like, dude, make time to watch that freaking match. It's so freaking good. It's like, okay, gotta do that. So a lot of great stuff on WWE programming this week. Next Saturday, Crown Jewel, the big show happening there. What do we got so far for that? We got Logan Paul, Roman Reigns. We got Lashley and Lesnar.
Usos and Brawling Brutes.
Okay.
So yeah, Roman, Logan Paul, Brock Lashley, Braun, Omos, Usos, Brawling Brutes. We got Bianca Bailey in a last woman standing match.
Okay.
We got cage match, Drew and Cross, and then OC and Judgment Day 6-man tag.
Which also, it's the same day Carl Anderson has a New Japan title defense. I wonder what's going to happen there. Because he's still the never open weight champion, and New Japan said, you either are doing our show or we're stripping you of the belt. And Carl's in kayfabe saying, I'm never giving up the belt and all that, so I wonder what's going to happen.
Yep.
Maybe.
Because I woke up this morning to see Nakamura versus Muta January 1st.
What's a Forbidden Door again?
Right?
So I wonder if that OC Judgment Day match might change a little bit.
I was going to say...
let Carl do the New Japan show, drop the belt, and then... Because he can't do both.
No.
That logistically cannot happen.
I was going to say, like, maybe he'll get replaced by somebody else to be in the OC for one night only. Maybe, why not to kind of pay off the whole thing that they had a couple weeks ago with Cameron Grimes? Why not bring Cameron Grimes over to be in the group for one night to fill in Carl's spot?
Hey!
But we'll see how that all goes.
Also, WWE news, Sheamus got married. Sheamus got married to his girlfriend, and the pictures from the wedding are pretty cool. You've got Cesaro. I saw this picture today, and it's fantastic. Cesaro and Sarah Del Rey, Becky and Seth, Miro and Lana, all lined up together, taking a picture. It's fantastic. And somebody said something.
What?
No, I was checking out Carl Anderson's Wikipedia page, and somebody is fucking messing with that page because
what does it say?
Because his birthday is January 20th, 1980. Somebody on the right side underneath the picture has his birthday December 31st, 1999.
What?
Somebody's gone on there and fucked everything up. I was looking at him like, wait, what? What? Somebody's been fucking around.
Fucking Wikipedia.
But now some AEW stuff and the Elite. They're about ready to come back, which means Punk he's done.
Yeah.
And we got the report about Jericho confronting Punk and calling him a cancer.
I mean,
whether that's true or not.
And then, the Elite kicked in the door and they hurt Punk's dog, which has been proven false by a bunch of people.
Yep.
That whole thing,
such a mess.
It's a sad end for Punk, but Punk screwed Punk.
Yeah.
Take the payout, dude. Just go home.
And
Everybody
forget about
out
the
there-
non-compete.
Mm-hmm.
I do not want to see Punk in the ring ever again, but what I do want to see a Broken Skull Sessions.
Yeah.
Where he just says everything and then he never appears anywhere again.
But even then, he doesn't have to do a Broken Skull, because why would he want to give WWE his time?
Right.
He can just he can just go live on Instagram or whatever nowadays and just do it himself. And
anger is a hell of a drug. If he is angry so much with AEW, he is willing to do something again with WWE. It could happen.
And Triple H even said, apparently said, somebody's quoting him, I don't know the legitimacy of it, they said he would be open to talking to Punk for business reasons. Why? For what fucking reason?
Given their history?
Fucking goods. No, he's done. That's it.
I don't want to see in ring, but I would want to see one interview just for him to just pour more gasoline and light another match.
Yeah. So take your fucking payout, dude. Go home and just be done with it. You tried it, fun for a year. Pressure got to everybody involved, and that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
He thought Hangman would shoot on him at the pay-per-view. Like, what the fuck, man? You really thought... And not saying that Hangman couldn't hold his own in a real fight, but he doesn't seem like the one who would actually want to start a real fight.
Mm-hmm.
But now the Elite's coming back.
Yeah.
And MJF is babyface.
Yep. Kind of. Possibly. So
Anti-hero.
Could be a red herring.
Yeah,
could be, or...
Because we even discussed last week, what if at Full Gear, fucking Regal turns on Mox and joins up with MJF?
Right. Mm-hmm. Just having the Firm beat him up could be a ploy. Been done many times where the heel has his crew beat him up to make it look like he's the sympathetic babyface, and then screws everybody. The Rock Survivor Series.
Bully Ray.
Yep, Bully Ray. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's got the attention. It's got the attention of everybody, and they're watching that. So that's got what they need. That's the good attention, the good PR they need, as opposed to all the other bullshit they've had to go through this year.
They're doing another bullshit tournament to determine a number one contender. How many tournaments have they had this year alone?
Mm-hmm.
Far too many.
You had the 2 Owen Hart tournaments. You had the Trios tournament. You had the interim champion thingy. Then you had the world title thingy. And now you're having this tournament. Like,
cut it out with the tournaments for a while.
Cut the tournaments next year. It's easy. Just don't fucking do anymore.
Right.
Or only do them when they matter.
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous. It was, I don't know if it was done before we went on the air last week or not, but day one pay-per-view gone.
Yeah.
That's been canceled. So that won't be happening now. Coincidentally, same day as at the day that Nakamura is wrestling Muta, by the way. But
which when I saw that graphic, I'm like, that's an awesome fan made graphic. And then it's like, oh my god, that's real.
That's real.
Holy shit!
Saw the picture and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Some made up thing or whatever. Then you Google, I'm like, that they're doing that. Holy shit! So, like, that makes you want to see it, to see what's going to happen.
Which makes you think, are they going to induct Muta into the Hall of Fame next year?
Probably.
That could definitely work. I mean, they've set the precedent with Vern Gagne. So even though he never wrestled in WWE ring, doesn't matter.
Like, they own all of Muta's WCW stuff.
Right.
So, who would induct him, though?
Who I was about to say Sting, but he's not there.
Would it be Nakamura?
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Don't laugh. Could be Funaki. He's been a connecting an advocate, not an advocate, but he's been an associate behind the scenes between Japanese talent and Japanese relations and so forth. So possibly could be him. Gary Hart's not around, so
yeah. Otherwise, it would have been him.
The guy that would make the most sense though is Sting, but
he's over
there
right now.
Unless
because it's happened before where Flair went in for the Horseman while in TNA, and Christian appeared to induct Sting in TNA while in WWE, so they could probably Jericho and Broken Skull. So they could easily make a call. Easily make a call like, hey, can we have Sting to induct Muta? Sure. Not out of the realm of possibility.
And Muta's acceptance speech, he walks up, blows the mist, walks off. That's it.
And the crowd would go nuts.
That's right.
Anything else this week notable?
Let's see.
Oh, Arthur Jones said in the comments the debut of Ava Raine this week.
Ava Raine, Rock's daughter. Now a part of Schism in NXT. That was a big shock. Big surprise there. Well done with that. And
guess what, people? Everybody's got to start somewhere, because I saw a lot of people shitting on it. It's like, you remember where Rock started? Fucking Flex Kavana in the USWA, and then he was Rocky Maivia before he became The Rock.
Yep.
And guess what? Those same people bitching would also be bitching if they were pushing and promoting her as Rock's daughter, 4th generation, and her going after the belt.
Even worse. Maybe not even worse. Yeah. So
she's damned if she does, and she's damned if she don't.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
So, like she's got so much pressure because it's you're 4th generation. You're the first 4th generation, and you're the daughter of The Rock.
So.
Yep.
Yeah. Give that time. We'll see what happens. But I've got a lot of faith in her. And just the fact that when she took the mask off, the whole fucking crowd went. It's like, they know who she is.
You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here.
Yep, there you go. That would have been a great line for her to say.
Yeah.
But, so that was big news for this week. Let's see. Survivor Series not been lined up yet. Once we get past Crown Jewel, that's going to come together. No more pay-per-view from then until
Rumble, which is nice.
Yeah, because like I talked about last week when we brought up about Day One, I think it's the first step. And of course, with what we just said about Hell in a Cell and Money in the Bank going away, it's the beginnings of WWE finally doing something they should have done years ago, and that's cutting pay-per-views down.
Yep.
Do like 8 a year.
Yeah, at most 8, at the minimum 6. Or 5. Honestly, I think it should be 5. Bring back King of the Ring.
King of the Ring, yeah.
Yeah, like it used to be. And like I said, and in between, do like a special, like a Saturday night main event on Peacock or something along those lines of Crown, like a Saudi show, whatever in between.
Well, it's like you got the main 4 and the 2 Saudi shows, so that's 6.
That's 6, yeah.
Yeah.
But you also run into the problem where fans are so normalized with 12 pay-per-views every single year, their attention.
And we are in a very weird time frame now for the wrestling business. It's, once Triple H took over and once the problem started having with AEW, we're in a whole new world now. Just with the fact that Nakamura, a WWE contracted wrestler, is being allowed to wrestle in another promotion in another country is happening. Which, by the way, people, didn't start under Triple H. It started under Vince with Mickey James at the Rumble this year. So it's like going back to that, having that option and negotiations to take place like that, it's opening up doors now that none of us could comprehend. To which now I say once again, please, you can do it. The precedent has been set. FTR, DIY, one more time.
Mm-hmm. Something else that nobody mentioned, and I didn't know about this till just now, but a couple weeks ago it was announced that Edge is going to be on the Percy Jackson and the Olympians Disney Plus show playing Eris.
I didn't even know that.
It's probably like something along the lines of like Greek mythology stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably. But
That's
hey,
cool.
good on Edge. He's going to be in a big role there.
God of War.
Yep. Pretty much. But can't think of anything else this week. This week, honestly, was kind of a slow week almost in comparison to since the summer. This week was very slow. Because it was like from June to like last week, it was like we were getting something big every fucking week. This week, kind of the first slow week we've had in a while, which is
It's not a bad thing.
And just watch, this week something big will happen, like Punk's contract will be bought out.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's only a matter, it's not a matter of if, it's when.
Yeah. Yep. But with all that said, I think that's a good place to wrap it up in a neat little bow. But before we go, a couple of things to mention. So, Scott doesn't know about it, only James, Ricky, and I know about it. We actually already have a set schedule planned through March of next year. But reminder of everything coming up for the rest of this year. November's starting soon. Kicking off next week with AAA When Worlds Collide 1994. Then the week after that, we're talking the top 10 worst Survivor Series matches of all time. Not just traditional, but in all of Survivor Series. Then the week after that, we're doing NWA Starrcade 86. And then concluding November, we got ECW November to Remember 1997. And then only 3 episodes in December because we'll be taking the final couple weeks off for Christmas and New Year's. But we talked about Halloween Havoc tonight, or today. We're going to talk about arguably the most cursed pay-per-view in WCW history, and that's Starrcade 1997. Week after that, top 10 best celebrity involvements in wrestling history. And then ending the year, we're talking Steve Austin's WCW run. But now on to the stuff for the first quarter of 2023. January, we'll be back on the 7th. It's Royal Rumble and 30th Raw anniversary celebration. First week, we're talking Royal Rumble 93. Week after that, we're doing the top 10 best Raw matches of all time. Then the week after that, we're talking Royal Rumble 2003. And then concluding January with top 10 best Raw moments of all time. February, we're kicking off with WCW Super Brawl 8. And then the week after that, we're doing the top 10 best authority figures in wrestling history. Week after that, we're talking WWF No Way Out in Your House 1998. And then concluding February, Ron Simmons' WCW run. And then for WrestleMania, we're going all WrestleMania reviews for the month of March. Kicking off with WrestleMania 1. Then we're going to do, along with WrestleMania 11, arguably the worst of all time, WrestleMania 9. Then the week after that, we're talking arguably one of the top 3 greatest WrestleManias of all time with WrestleMania 19. And then concluding WrestleMania season, we're talking WrestleMania 24. So that's the schedule we got through WrestleMania time. So mark your calendars for all those. Of course, some might be subject to change depending on vacations or when we need to take some time off. But that's a tentative schedule of what we'll
Re-record.
Mm-hmm.
Meh. But,
Yeah.
yeah, this will surely affect my inheritance.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with all that said, it is plug time before we end the stream for today. James?
You can find me on my YouTube at We Are Pro Wrestling, where I had just announced what I'm going to be doing for the month of November, and I'm going to be talking about Bret Hart's WWF career, starting with the Hart Foundation, then the first half of his singles run, the second half of his singles run, culminating with Survivor Series 1997 and an epilogue about the stuff once he came back and all that. So subscribe to my channel and follow me on Twitter at WAPW_wrestling.
James. Or not,
just
sorry. Scott.
You can find me on my YouTube ad.
We are pro wrestling.
Nice. Scott.
All good. It's all good. Find me on my YouTube channel. It's Mr. Scott. I am 117 subs away from 3,000, which I'd really love to hit before the end of the year. I've got a packed November. So much to do in November. I've got requests to do. There's a new Epic Rap Battle of History that just dropped I got to do for November. New songs from Love Bites, Bandmate, Nemophila, Sabaton, Electric Callboy, all these different bands I've done that I've had so much fun doing. All that's slated for November, may even fall into December too. So please check out the YouTube, check out the Twitch. It's Mr. Scott on Twitch. I just did my heavy Halloween stream. That was fun. It's still up there for you to check out. Did about 14 or 15 horror and Halloween themed metal songs mostly. Did some punk songs and some fun songs as well in there too. So you can check that out at your leisure. I'm up to about 116 followers on there, so keep on going with that. Find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok under It's Mr. Scott. And you find me and our good friend Walter on the Necrocasticon podcast. We've had a lot of fun this past month doing what we're calling the Hallowed Grounds, where we have a bunch of authors that we know come in and read stories. I do little intros under a different character. It's been fun to do too. And we shall see what else we do for the rest of this year. So follow all that stuff and follow and subscribe here and do all that fun stuff as well. Always appreciate the support.
And of course, subscribe to me, ThrashManiac99 on YouTube. Again, just hit 3,500 subs last week. Now on to the road to the 4,000 sub mark, which is probably going to take a little while, but we'll see. Yesterday I posted my review for the new Dark Throne album, Astral Fortress. Don't mess with Fenris, he knows Feng Shui. But yeah, killer album once again from the Gruesome Twosome from Norway. As far as what's coming up on the channel, tomorrow, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, will be the live premiere of my ranking of typo negative albums, which I'll have to post about that on Instagram for people to be reminded for tomorrow, because holy shit, who doesn't love typo negative unless you're a fucking dickhead? So there you go. So that's coming tomorrow for Halloween, of course. Upcoming reviews for the upcoming weekend of Devin Townsend, which is going to be big, and all sorts of stuff as I'm getting prepped for my Album of the Year video series. That will be 5 days in a row of top 50 albums of 2022. So there's going to be 5 videos in a row at some point in December all about that. So be on the lookout for those. I'm also prepping for my upcoming Deicide ranking, which will be around mid-month, and then eventually to Black Sabbath. But that's all on the YouTube side. Meanwhile, you can follow me on Instagram at ThrashManiac_YT. I'm almost to 900 followers over there. Let's get there really soon, and then maybe even to 1,000 before the year is over. And then finally, follow and or subscribe to me on Twitch at ThrashManiac99. And if you subscribe, you might get something special. Waka waka. So,
Giggity, giggity. Giggity,
and speaking
giggity,
of Twitch, I will be on there later on tonight for random bullshit gaming, whatever the fuck. So yeah. Cause I am Kermit the Frog. By the way, Mr. Scott has the best channel in the world. Yes. And by the way, James, would you like to explain to Scott about the reason why you decided to do Foo on your last episode yesterday?
I decided to do that because it was Halloween.
And also, we want Foo. We want Foo.
Nobody
Maybe
wants
someday.
Foo. Nobody wants Foo.
But anyways, we're
Pussy
out
Foo.
for Oosie Foo.
Oopsie Foo.
That just sounds terrible.
That just sounds really nasty.
No. Well, now I need to vomit.
Juicy.
But before we go, I haven't done it yet.
Oh, great.
Lovely.
All this time
Old,
drinking
I'm
this,
tired and I work
never
with
did.
fucking children. Goodbye. Happy Halloween.